Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. So, the world has kind of gone crazy.
What else is new? This happened like 5 years ago.
Did it?
Yeah.
Really?
Sorry, 6 years ago.
What happened 6 years ago? I don't remember.
Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. But in that case, I mean, the world did kind of change. That was quite a tilt. It
has nothing to do with him being elected president and everything to do with how the people who didn't want him to be elected president reacted.
Here's a quote that I found that says, as a society, we are becoming addicted to wanting particular outcomes, not living with the outcomes we don't like. And we can't be an institution that can be bullied into giving you just the outcomes you want. The events from earlier this week are a symptom of that. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice.
What events from earlier this week?
Well, somebody leaked a draft opinion, which, may or may not be how the final vote goes, about Roe versus Wade, that the Supreme Court was going to overturn that precedent.
Okay.
They feel that it was not decided on the grounds of the Constitution.
Okay.
And by the pure letter of the law and the way the Constitution was crafted and the way that branch of government was crafted, their job is to be the referee. Impartial, always looking at the facts and making a decision based on the facts.
Okay.
And they decided in this draft opinion that nowhere in the Constitution, and this makes sense when you think about it, nowhere in the Constitution did it talk about federal government having the right to regulate or not regulate abortions.
I remember asking you the question earlier this week. Does the federal government regulate any medical procedures?
And I don't think I've come up with one.
Well, now we came to the conclusion the federal government regulates drugs. The FDA is federal.
Well, yes,
but they
this is true.
don't regulate medical procedures.
Right.
That we can think of.
Right.
So if you can think of one, send us an email because we would love to know.
info@yogispodcastnetwork.com. Hey, you might get a reply. If you do, special surprise. Anyway. So you agree with me on that? That's...
Yeah.
All right.
Now, of course, because I don't really feel like getting 3,000 tons of left-leaning hate on social media, I am very much for every woman's right to choose what they do with their body.
As am I. 100%. As am I.
It's one of the very few places where the world has been very inconsistent. Well, not one of the very... It's one of the many places where the world has been very inconsistent over the last 2 years. Women have the right to choose whether they can get an abortion, but women don't have the right to choose whether or not they can get a vaccination that might destroy their reproductive organs and give them all sorts of problems.
And that's really inconsistent. It's inconsistent, yet here's the thing. It's actually more consistent than people think because that's how people behave. They only advocate for their viewpoint and refuse to ever truly accept the opposing viewpoint.
Yes.
So if the majority decides that the opposing viewpoint wins, they scream and yell and jump up and down and scream and yell and jump up and down.
Do you remember when this whole pandemic shenanigans started and then they started masking everybody and vaxxing everybody? And I said, what happened to my body, my choice?
Right.
Isn't it ironic that the pandemic kind of starts to wrap itself up and this pops up?
And the signs are back. My body, my choice.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I thought of when I heard/saw that. But like the other part about this is if these were, say, uber conservative people, just throwing it out there, like, let's go to the extremes, right? We're talking about the extreme left. Let's talk about the extreme right. If these were the uber extreme right leaning people, the left would be having them arrested because it's illegal to do what they're doing.
Of course.
It's a violation of federal law. But yet the police just stand there and they're going to say that they couldn't do anything because it's not a violation of their law. It's a violation of federal law. And they're going to make some stupid argument about why they didn't enforce it. You know, some dispute they have with the government or some dumbass stuff that they'll use to cover their ass. But in any event, I ramble. I shall not ramble. I shall not ramble. That's why you really can't make that deal.
Anyway, I think that my comments kind of proved the point of the quote that you read.
And that's why it's consistent, because that's what people do.
I know, but people are inconsistent.
So
and it's irritating.
Right. But when people do that, people are like, oh, well, that came as a surprise. No, it didn't. It's so consistent. It's what people do.
People be peopleing.
Yeah, you can tell. That's the scary thing about social media giants is they collect so much data on us that they know what we're going to eat for dinner next Wednesday before we even think about it.
Well, because on Tuesday, they're going to send me a video. Us. And that video is going to look so damn tasty. Thanks, Tasty, for looking tasty. Anyway, that video is going to look so damn tasty that it's going to make me want to make something special for dinner on Wednesday night.
So before we go too much further, we're kind of wrapping a bow around this so we can keep going with it, but kind of frame it. I think that quote is basically saying people go crazy when a decision is made by anybody that goes against what they believe. Nobody is willing to just accept defeat and move on. And here's what I was going to say earlier, and we went off on what you were thinking, which is great, because that led us back here. Incidentally, really weird. But the sports analogy works like this. When you're a kid, your parents encourage you to go play team sports because they tell you it's going to prepare you for life. And you kind of say to yourself, what the hell, you know, until you put the dots together. Because when you play team sports, you have to let everybody have a chance. You have to have good sportsmanship. You have to keep working all the time, work harder and harder and harder. And, you know, in a game, you can be losing 4-0 and come back and win 10-4. You know, like that's just how it works. And life is the same way. You can be really, really down and all of a sudden flip it around and, you know, go with it. And that's the funny part, is that what they're doing to these people is they're stopping them from exercising that concept of I'm a team player and I've got to do the best that I can do for my team.
I don't know, man. I think little kid sports are also causing the problem by giving everyone trophies and teaching them that they never lose. Well,
yes. Like that's the thing, though. But I'm thinking more about like when I was in little kid sports. You know, I've been playing baseball since I'm 4 years old.
But that's back when little kid sports were actually sports and not trophy fests.
And we had to compete and we had playoffs. And you know what? It didn't mess us up. Someone lost.
And no one
there were scores up on the board and everything.
No crying in baseball.
The only thing they did with the younger kids, and it was really fair because, well, you'd draft as equal as you could. But then some kids just suddenly blossom right around that age. Mm-hmm. And when they blossom, if you're lucky enough to have 3 of those on your team, well, now you got like 4 studs. Nobody else has even just one. And you kick everyone's ass. Well, they have a mercy rule. Once you're 10 runs ahead, done. And that's 10-0, 11-1, 12-2.
It's reasonable.
And I think it's reasonable, too, because you know what?
There's no need to blow them out of the water.
And you know what? 10 runs, let me tell you, that fucking stings. So, yeah, it's fair, I think. But they had the mercy rule. And then, as you'd get older, there was no mercy rule. And it was about, yes, there were runs up there on the board. And if you didn't come in first or second, you didn't get a trophy. There was no trophy for you. And guess what? There also wasn't a little medal or anything like that. You got a piece of paper that said, Mike participated in boys youth baseball 12 year, blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's all you got. Piece of flipping paper, man.
Participation.
A participation certificate. Yeah, there you go. Certificate.
See, when it started to go wrong back when I was a kid, I have.
Is that you? So you kind of saw the divide? Because that's what I was saying. It wasn't like that with me. I didn't see the divide.
They would have every year at the 4th to 6th grade school that I went to, that they would have like a track and field and competition thing, and all the classes would participate against the other classes, and then there were some individual sports. Now, I am not athletic or good at anything sports-wise. I'm terrible at all of them. I can't throw, I can't run, I don't catch well. It's always been a thing. Sports are not my jam. Okay?
You just have to be put in the right position and given the right role. It's like It's like the same thing with any team. You have to have the right person on the bus in the right seat, and you just haven't found the right seat yet. Because I know some stuff about you that would make you a beast.
Anyway,
go.
Wasn't my jam. None of it.
Okay.
I have, and my mother, the psycho crazy person that she was, put it in my scrapbook. 16th place in the relay race. 16th. I got a ribbon for 16th place.
Yeah, that's...
Why does anybody need that recognized?
Well...
It did not make me feel good.
It reminds me of when a certain somebody that I know asked me why I thought they only gave out, like, awards for runners who finished in, like, the top 30.
Okay.
How fair is that? Well, top 30, those were good runners.
Yeah.
They deserved the recognition. They were good runners. But the number that they were trying to reach to become one of those level of runners and getting an award, because there isn't a set number of awards. It's not like there's only 5 and they give out 5. There's everybody who gets under this time, top 30. Boom. So you could have 5 people tied for the same time. They're all getting the award. But in any event, levels of awards. No, just awards. Boom, done. No levels.
I mean, I also have a 9th place ribbon.
Who cares?
The 16th place one is just the cherry on the cake. Like, that's just
I almost feel like they're doing the opposite of what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you feel good, and instead they're making you feel like shit because it's calling out how bad you did.
And they presented it. Oh, Victoria, 16th place in the relay race. Yeah, thanks. I know I'm a slow loser. It's all good. Like, I don't need you to tell me and point it out in front of the entire universe.
That's just too funny. That's just too funny because that's what I'm thinking. Like, these people thought that they were helping by making these changes.
But that's when it started. It wasn't like that when I was in, like, really little kid school.
That's really interesting because, you've witnessed the divide beginning. So, I mean, it's not necessarily exactly when it happened here, but it does feel like it was right around that. In the 90s. It does feel like it was right around that time. And I think...
If you thought really hard about it, you'd probably see where it happened when Ash was in school and Matthew.
Oh, no. I do know when it happened.
Yeah.
I mean... I remember Matthew being in 5th grade, and he was always the rule follower. Kind of still is, but always the rule follower. Like meticulous about following the rules. And we go for the first, like, parent-teacher conferences required in 5th grade. So you go. And he got like there's like, for citizenship, there was like an E, an S, an N, and a U, right? And he got an N for citizenship. And we're like, well, hold on. How come you haven't told us that he isn't behaving, right? How come you haven't told us? All it was that the boys wanted to play tackle football, which wasn't allowed per the principal, who happened to be his mother's friend. So tackle football wasn't allowed. He wasn't going to break that rule. So he told on them. Well, to this teacher's way of looking at things, that was offensive to the other children. So therefore he is not a good citizen. And I'm like, so let's just create a scenario where someone sees a murder.
Yeah, should he just keep that to himself?
So you just not say anything? And then that way, he's not offensive to the person who committed the crime.
But notice, people who live around here, they won't say something.
No.
They see somebody fall and hit their head, they're not going to stop and help them.
No, it's sad.
So it's just kind of a standard California thing, apparently.
It's kind of sad. And that's why I look at it that way.
I always got ends because I wasn't very friendly to other people.
So that's one thing that hasn't changed.
Yes.
Now I'm going to leave her wondering if I really believe that or not.
You don't.
Nah. How do you know? Maybe I do.
I'm really not very friendly to people I don't know. It's all good.
Yeah, one thing about Torya is that when you first meet her, you pick up on a vibe. If you're smart, you pick up on a vibe, and the vibe is kind of telling you, well, it's worth the wait. It's worth the wait. Stick it out. It's worth the wait. And not that she's not friendly, because she is, but she's a little bit more quiet and like not distrustful, but more like cautious.
Suspicious at best.
Yeah. And then over time she watches, and I think loyalty is very valuable to her. And
this guy thinks he knows me.
And she opens up a little bit when she finally sees that you're loyal. And then that's when you see the side of her that really pulls you in, and you fall in love with it because
then you're stuck with me.
She's just funny and super smart.
So it's up to you entirely. Like, if you wait it out, you're stuck with all of this.
And the worst part is for me, and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be totes honest here right here. The worst part for me is I love your sass, except for when I don't. That's all I can say. And that's a bad thing. Because I do love it, except
when
for
it's
those
not
times.
Directed at you.
Except for, no, not even that. There's times when it's directed at me. I don't have any problems at all.
Fine, when it's not directed at you and you're already in a bad mood.
There you go. Which means you're poking the bear when
not
you poke
always.
the bear.
Sometimes I don't know you're in a bad mood until I give you the sass and you like rip my entire face off. And I'm like, alrighty then. Whew.
Hey, now, make sure you clarify what you mean by that, because I do not ever physically touch you.
No, but I get like the face-melting sarcasm back. The mean sarcasm, not the nice, funny Mike sarcasm.
Well, that kind of goes to prove that you can be very deliberate in how you say things, and it works because it keeps you consistent.
Well, I do the same thing to you. Sometimes you'll sass me when I'm in a bad mood, and then you get the face-melting sarcasm back.
Yeah.
Because we're the same freaking person. So
we are. We really are.
This isn't me complaining about this man.
It's not. It's scary, though, how alike we are. It really is scary. I think that people just need to learn that just because it didn't go your way this time doesn't mean it's not going to go your way next time.
And you're not entitled to have it go your way every time. So stop.
And sometimes the way you make progress is you evolve your thinking based upon what the other side wins in a battle. So if this is a win here, you decide, oh, okay, well, in those structure and within those rules, here's what I'm going to do to make sure my side gets what it wants. Mm-hmm. And I see nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that people are they want it at the level they want it at, the amount they want it at the intensity they want it at. And if they don't get that, they yell and scream like children.
Yes.
Like little tiny baby children. Wah! Why?
They scream louder than the baby my friend is about to have.
Why, though? Why? It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Just, you know what? You lost that round. Regroup, man. Get back to the drawing board. Your playing field's been narrowed a little bit, and then it's going to get narrowed a little bit more. And eventually, there's going to be an ultimate victor.
Yep.
So anyway.
You're the ultimate victor of this podcast.
People have to flip and stop ignoring the outcome that they didn't like. And just give it respect and move on. I mean,
sometimes it's worth fighting for what you really want, and sometimes just accept it and move on. And fight
well,
for something
well,
else.
also, do you know how stupid you look when you say things like, "Oh, if this person becomes president, I'm moving to Canada," and that person becomes president, and you still flip and live here?
Yeah.
You know how stupid
Canada
you look?
doesn't want you.
You just look like a moron. So don't do it. It's just so dumb. Just go with it. Regroup and fight the battle. You live another day. That's all I got to say.
On that note, good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye, buddies.
Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.